So she set to work, and very soon finished off the cake.
Hello and welcome to English with Justino, a podcast designed for you to learn English vocabulary, expressions, culture, and maybe even some grammar along the way. This podcast is for those already speaking a little English at an intermediate level. The idea here is to listen and learn from a native English speaker in a natural way, the way you first learned your native language, by hearing it. Okay, forward we go. Enjoy!
Episode 23. El Pastel Mágico. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when and where you're listening. This story is the fifth of a grand adventure that I hope you continue to follow along with. It's the end of Chapter 1, so I'm planning to summarize the whole chapter at the end. And as with the other lessons, I will tell the story and then ask questions along the way in order to emphasize what is happening and to give you some new vocabulary words. Try to answer the questions while you're listening. There's a lot more to come with the story, and I will be posting these stories on a YouTube channel at English with Justino as well. I suggest you listen to this and other podcasts many times if you want to improve your English. Keep practicing and try to answer the questions naturally. And as always, please visit www.oyejustino.com to find a transcription for this podcast and vocabulary cards with many common words found here. Listening to and following along with the transcripts is a good way to improve your language skills. Please send me an email to let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. Before we start, here is a summary from the last lesson to remind you of where we left off. Alice was waiting by the little door and wished she could shut up like a telescope, which meant to shrink down to a small size. She saw a small bottle that was not there before, and it said, "Drink me." Alice was worried she might be poisoned by the potion in the small bottle, but there was not a warning. Alice tried a taste of the potion, and it had a mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. It tasted so good, Alice drank it all up. Suddenly, Alice began to shrink down, and she was only 10 inches tall. She was small enough to walk right through the small door and into the beautiful garden she could see on the other side. And now to the story. After a while, finding that nothing more happened, Alice decided on going into the garden at once. But poor Alice, when she got to the door, she found she had forgotten the little golden key, and when she went back to the table for it, she found she could not reach it. She was too small. She could see it quite plainly through the glass, and she tried her best to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery, and when she tired herself out with trying, the poor little thing sat down and cried. What did Alice decide to do? Alice decided that she would go through the door and into the garden at once, or right away. What happened to Alice? Did Alice run through the open door and into the most beautiful garden ever? No. Alice got to the door and realized she left the key to the door on the table, and now she was too small to reach it. Did Alice try to climb the leg of the table to get the key? Yes, Alice tried to climb the table, but she was not able. It was too slippery, and she got tired out. What did Alice do then? Did Alice sit down and start to cry? Yes, Alice sat down and started to cry, because she was frustrated she was too small to get the key and now could not unlock the door to go into the garden. Come, there's no use crying like that, said Alice to herself, rather sharply. I advise you leave this minute. She generally gave herself very good advice, though she seldom followed it, and sometimes she scolded herself so severely as to bring tears to her eyes, and once she remembered trying to hit her own ears for having cheated herself in a game as she was playing against herself. But this curious girl was very fond of pretending to be two people. But it's no use now, thought poor Alice, to pretend to be two people. Why, there's hardly enough of me to make one respectable person. Did Alice stop crying about the poor situation she was in? Yes. Alice stopped crying and sat thinking about odd things like cheating herself in a game and being two people. Alice was in a strange place. She was small enough to go through the door, but too small to get the key that she left on the table. What a crazy place this was. Soon, her eye fell on a little glass box that was lying under the table. Soon, her eye fell on a little glass box that was lying under the table. She opened it and found in it a very small cake, on which the words, "Eat me," were beautifully marked in currants. "Well, I'll eat it," said Alice. And if it makes me grow larger, I can reach the key. And if it makes me grow smaller, I can creep under the door. So either way, I'll get into the garden, and I don't care which happens." So she ate a little bit and said anxiously to herself, "Which way? Which way?" holding her hand on top of her head to feel which way it was growing. And she was quite surprised to find that she remained the same size. To be sure, this generally happens when one eats cake, but Alice had gotten so much into the way of expecting nothing but out-of-the-way things to happen that it seemed quite dull and stupid for life to go on in a common way. So she set to work, and very soon finished off the cake. Alice was thinking strange thoughts sitting small under the table. What did Alice suddenly see? Did she see a new bottle of potion to drink? No, Alice didn't see a new bottle of potion to drink. Alice saw a glass box, and in the glass box was a piece of cake. Did Alice eat the cake? Yes, Alice ate the cake because she thought the cake might help her get through the door, or get the key, or something. The cake was now gone. Alice ate it all up. And that's the end of Chapter 1 of Alice's Wonderland Adventures. Let's listen to the summary of the entire chapter. Okay, here we go. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank, when all of a sudden a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. The rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket, looked at it, and then hurried on. Alice got to her feet, and burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it. Fortunately, Alice was just in time to see the rabbit go down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. Alice went straight down the hole after the rabbit without thinking about what would happen, and soon she was falling. She was falling slowly down a long, deep well. Alice was falling down, down, down without stopping for quite some time. Alice said out loud she was getting somewhere near the center of the earth. She was also wondering when she did land, what country she was in. Alice kept falling, and soon she started talking out loud to herself about her cat Dinah. Alice asked out loud if anyone was feeding her cat back at home. Then she asked out loud if her cat was here, and if there were any mice to catch. She supposed maybe not, but there were bats to catch. She didn't know if Dinah ate bats. Just then, she fell into a heap of sticks and dry leaves. She looked up and thought how strange this all was. Alice was back on the ground somewhere in a heap of sticks and dry leaves. Alice landed and was on the ground after her long fall, but was not a bit hurt. She jumped up and saw the white rabbit was still in sight and was hurrying down a long corridor. Alice ran after the rabbit, but was too late. She was standing in a long, low-lit hall by lamps on the roof. There were doors all along the walls in the hall, but they were all locked. Alice did not know how to get out, but she soon found a key sitting on a three-legged table. She tried it in all the doors, but it didn't fit any of them. Alice walked and checked the hall one more time, and unexpectedly found another very small door behind a curtain at the end of the hall. The key worked in it. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passage and into the most beautiful garden she has ever seen. Alice was waiting by the little door and wished she could shut up like a telescope, which meant to shrink down to a small size. She saw a small bottle that was not there before, and it said, "Drink me." Alice was worried she might be poisoned by the potion in the small bottle, but there was not a warning. Alice tried a taste of the potion, and it had a mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. It tasted so good Alice drank it all up. Suddenly, Alice began to shrink down, and she was only 10 inches tall. She was small enough to walk right through the small door and into the beautiful garden she could see on the other side. Alice was small enough to fit through the door now, and she decided to go into the garden. However, when she started down towards the door, she realized she forgot the key. It was on top of the table, and now that she was small, she could not reach it. Alice sat down and started to cry, but then realized it would do no good to cry, and she built herself back up. She looked back under the table, and there was a glass box with cake inside. It said to eat me, so Alice ate the cake, hoping it would help her get into the garden. And that's the end of Chapter 1 of Alice's Wonderland Adventures. There's a lot more to come, and I'll be posting the audio with questions and answers on our YouTube channel, English with Justino, if you want to hear these there again. The podcasts are also in number 15, 17, 19, 21, and 23 on any podcast channel you choose to listen to. I hope you enjoyed listening, and I hope you understood everything. If not, I would suggest listening to this again and again. Once you hear the same words over and over, you will begin to understand and your English will be at a higher level. Also, the transcripts will be posted for this episode at www.oyejustino.com, and you can listen and read along at the same time. I would love to hear what your comments are, and if you mention them to me, I will talk about them in a new podcast. Send me a message at english@oyejustino.com or visit our website to find transcripts, podcasts, and vocabulary flashcards. And again, see you next time. Bye-bye for now.